I know you have been teaching Hung Gar for more than 30 years in Hong Kong, is that right?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you know, you have so many students, and they're all, I know, they're all highly respected to you. They appreciate your knowledge in Hung Gar background. But anyway, as I know, many of them are actually not really understand what makes you to obsess about this, or how Hung Gar is important in your whole life. So can you share with us about a little bit about your background or history?
Yes. Okay, so I'll start by telling my story, because I became involved in Hung Gar very early in my life. So I began after birth, I was not able to walk. And I spent the first 5 years of my life unable to walk. I was in a wheelchair. I spent a lot of time inside hospitals. And so I became accustomed to the health and medicine. If you like, it was my introduction to that, not being able to walk. My father was a doctor, so I would accompany him to the hospitals when he went there. And so in my early life, I got to know all about hospitals, how they function, all the nurses, and I had the run of the hospital whenever I visited. I would get in one of the hospital wheelchairs, and I was free to go anywhere in these hospitals. So that was up to age 5. And then beyond that, I spent many years after that on crutches and walking stick. And the reason is that at age 5, I was introduced to one of our neighbors who was who happened to be a Sifu of Hung Gar. And he offered my father to help me to get out of the wheelchair and learn to walk. At the time,
was he Australian or?
No, he was Chinese. He was from from China, and he was one of our neighbors, and not anybody knew anything about him really. He was just a guy that a lot of people didn't pay any attention to. And I got to know him, and I would visit his home every now and then, and he was always very helpful and friendly to me. And one day I went to see him because my father had told me that I was going to have an operation on my leg, and I would likely never be able to walk properly again. So I went and spoke with this old Chinese gentleman who I'll call Master Chan Sifu, and he listened to my story, went to talk to my father and said, how about I try to help him? And initially my father didn't like that idea, but anyway, they talked, and my father agreed to let him see what he could do. So that was my first introduction to a Hung Gar Sifu. Not that I knew anything about it. I had no idea what Chinese martial arts was. We're talking a long time ago. The name Bruce Lee didn't mean anything to anybody. But as far as I was concerned, as a little 5-year-old boy, he was someone who was going to try to help me to walk. And I had no idea what he was going to do. So that was the beginning of my introduction to Hung Gar. He was also a Tita. He knew Tita, put it that way. And he used some of his Chinese medicine techniques. And gradually over time, and I'm talking a long time, I'm talking years, not months, many, many years, he would work with me, and I gradually got feeling back in my legs. He introduced me to some of the stances in Hung Gar, which I understand today what they are, but obviously when I was 5 years of age, I did not. And he used many of the principles of Hung Gar training to help me to learn to walk again. So that's what happened. And then over the years, I was able to walk. It wasn't until I was perhaps 16 years of age that I was able to walk without a limp. And so, you know, from a child up to a teenager, basically I spent most of that time perfecting my ability to walk. During that time, I missed a lot of school. Schools were not very friendly to people in wheelchairs and people on crutches at that time. And it transpired that up to the age of 8 years of age, I had only spent 2 months at school. So I didn't mix with other people. I hadn't learnt all the social skills of mixing with other kids. I was basically a loner.
So mainly at that age, you are learning the Hung Gar concept or knowledge from that Master Chan to the Sifu. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Learning all about the concept. I mean, he began teaching me some things. His background, when I look back now, was basically village Hung Gar. He was no famous Sifu, but he had learned many of the principles and he knew something about it. So he began.
And it's not particularly is the form, it's the kind of movement, yes, or techniques, okay, to help you how to walk.
That's right. There were some forms,
okay,
but you know, it wasn't an in-depth Hung Gar syllabus, put it that way. It was him trying to help someone to get strength and learn to walk. And so that went on, and then after that, and he passed away when I was about 18 years of age, and he made me promise before he passed away that I would continue learning and passing all the knowledge on, and so I agreed to do that, and I kept my promise, and still do up until today. So after that, I then progressed into my education. I spent a bit of time in my education, which involved a lot of things to do with Western medicine. I ended up doing a PhD in health sciences. So I had a good understanding of the health sciences, the Western health science, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pharmacology. And then I became involved in Chinese medicine. I did not want to go down the Western medical path. Remember, I had quite an introduction as a child to many of the things Chinese. Chinese family in Chan Sifu's home. I'd spent a lot of time. He had a lot of people there. So that I'd been listening to the Chinese language. I'd been involved with some of the Chinese medicine in the healing process, and obviously the Chinese martial arts. So I decided to follow the path of Chinese medicine rather than Western medicine. And so I studied Chinese medicine in Australia. And it was a formal course of 4 years. It was run by some Chinese medicine professors who had come from China to Australia, and they'd set up a school. And so it was a very in-depth course. And so I learned all the herbs, the acupuncture, some of the Tita concepts, all of the framework and basics of Chinese medicine. And this was the traditional Chinese medicine. Beyond that, I studied nutrition. I became a certified nutritionist as well. So I ended up being a licensed traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture practitioner, a certified nutritionist, a health coach, and an educator in many Chinese medicine things and general health, a holistic health practitioner. And I, in fact, started my own practice back in 1979. And over the years, I practiced in Australia, the UK, and Hong Kong since about the mid-1980s. I had clinical practices here in Hong Kong. So that's my background. Now, at the bottom of the tree that you see in the middle, you can see some other things. And what this means is there's the Australian flag. Obviously, I was born in Australia and brought up there. My heritage is actually Australian Aboriginal. And that's the Aboriginal flag you see at the bottom in the middle. And so I'm quite influenced by that to some extent. And then on the right at the bottom, you see the Seducius, which is an image representing medicine. So my roots, if you like, are in Australian Aboriginal, the Australia as a country, and health and medicine from my family. So that probably has an influence over everything I've done in my life. So at the very top, you can see now, this is today, in my older age, I became very patient-centric, so I always were looking to help people with their health. Philanthropic activities, meaning I've done a lot of things where I've not charged people money, including clinical practice, education, doing seminars, doing health coaching. And my motto today is helping people lead healthier lives. And I'm involved in cancer and health and wellness coaching. And obviously my school now, since 1995 in Hong Kong, I set up the Hung Gar School, which you've been involved in since then. And that's where I spend my activities today, teaching Hung Gar, and I'm also fairly heavily involved in health and medicine, continually learning more things. I mean, just recently I finished another course in one of the very famous US universities. And I continually do other things. Today I'm a member of the Royal Society of Medicine in the UK, and various other things throughout the world. So with my memberships, I'm able to get access to all the latest research, clinical trials, everything that's going on. So I spend a lot of time doing that. And I'm forever relating Chinese medicine, Chinese martial arts, and Western medicine, and trying to see the similarities and pull them together. In fact, my PhD in health sciences, the topic was energy as a link between Chinese medicine and Western medicine. So I'm heavily involved in looking at the relationships between Western medicine and Chinese medicine. So that's me. That's who I am.
Okay, very, very interesting.